Wicked connected to the Wizard of Oz? This could be an entire college level course as they both started as books, but I'm going to keep it as simple as possible, connecting the movie to the musical. Needless to say, if you have never seen the musical, spoiler alerts ahead, let's flow. Think of the Wizard of Oz as the story the media wants you to know, and Wicked as the story of what actually happens. The timeline of the Wizard of Oz is like a couple of weeks within the timeline of Wicked, which is years and years long. We know how the Wizard of Oz goes. Dorothy drops in, lands on the Wicked Witch of the East, Glinda meets her, gives her the shoes, and then she goes on a journey. On her way to meet the wizard so she can go back home, she meets the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Lion, the Wicked Witch tortures her along the way. She eventually meets the wizard, melts the Wicked Witch, and gets to go home. Happy ending, all good. The story of Wicked actually starts here, where the Wicked Witch of the West, who we learn is named Elphaba, has just been melted. The townspeople are celebrating her death, and they are greeted by Glinda the Good Witch, who is then prompted to tell the story about how her and Elphaba knew each other. She tells how Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, was born green after her mother cheated on her father, the governor of Munchkinland, after drinking a green elixir. They also have another daughter named Nessarose, the Wicked Witch of the East. She becomes the prized possession of the family. A big chunk of the story happens during the schooling years, where the sisters and Glinda attend Shiz University together. Elphaba and Glinda are paired as roommates. They loathe each other at first, then they become friends, and there are a couple of love triangles that are important here to make some character connections. Glinda is in love with Fiyero, who is actually in love with Elphaba, and Nessa is in love with a munchkin named Bop, who is actually in love with Glinda. The drama at this time is that the government is trying to stop the animals of Oz from speaking, and Elphaba is an advocate against this. So the first connection is that there's a lion cub in a cage in a classroom, and Elphaba frees that lion, which then becomes the Cowardly Lion in the Wizard of Oz. Elphaba and Glinda are invited to go meet the wizard. They learn that he is the one causing this harm. Defying gravity happened, and that is where Act 1 of the play ends. Act 2 begins years later, where Elphaba goes to visit Nessa and gives her slippers superpowers so she can walk again, and that is when Bok actually leaves Nessa because he realizes she doesn't need him anymore. So Nessa puts an accidental spell on Bok to make him lose his heart, and that is when Bok becomes the Tin Man. The government wants to capture Elphaba, so they put Nessa in danger. They summon a storm, which causes a twister. The house falls on Nessa, kills her, and that is where the Wizard of Oz begins. Glinda meets Dorothy, gives her Nessa's slippers, and then we know where that goes. Then, Elphaba wants to protect her love, Fiyero, so she puts a spell on him, which accidentally then turns him into the Scarecrow. Elphaba then captures Dorothy to get her sister's shoes back, and this is really where the two timelines meet up. Dorothy melts Elphaba, and the story of the Wizard of Oz ends with her dying, them celebrating, her going back home, happy ending. But Wicked does not end here. After she melts, Glinda discovers all that's left is a hat and the green elixir, and she puts together the fact that Elphaba's father was the wizard this entire time, and that is how she has her magical powers. The story ends with Fiyero, the Scarecrow, knocking on the door where Elphaba melted and realizing that she faked her death. They ride off into the sunset happily ever after with no one ever knowing, but a completely different ending than what we learned in The Wizard of Oz.